Okay, so we are on day 2 of Mishlei 15:12. Oh, before I forget, Bli Neder, Isaac is going to take over my Mishlei shiur next week, Wednesday and Thursday. I don't know if he's going to do Mishlei, but he'll inform you through the Rabbi Shneim's shiur in chat, and I'll be off the grid.
Wait, do you need to say Bli Neder for
Yeah, I was quoting him.
Yeah, that was my editor that he
Yeah.
was repeating.
Yeah, I was not Bli Nedering.
I thought you were like,
yeah, no.
Probably you would.
Yeah, no. That's a good question if that's what I meant. But yeah. Okay, so lo yehav leitz hocheach lo el chachamim lo yilech. The scoffer will not love his being rebuked. And you'll see, I think I was right in my translation earlier, or this, the one who rebukes him. Okay, there is someone who takes it that way. So I think that is a correct translation. Okay, to the wise he will not go. Our questions were, isn't this obvious? There are many pesukim about how the Leitz hates rebuke, and even if we didn't have pesukim like that, we could predict what the Leitz would do when someone rebukes him, right? He's not going to be a fan of that. I mean, he mocks people in general, and he has a big ego. That's part of his definition. It's Zayd Yahir. He is a aggressive / malicious, and then Yahir is arrogant. So he's, of course, going to hate someone who rebukes him. So why do we need someone to say this? What's the chiddush? 2, what's the definition of a leitz in this context? We mentioned that even though the pasuk defines leitz as a zayd and a yahir, there are different features of the leitz. Like he's a yoshef kranos, he's a lazy bum, not lazy, but a bum. And he also right, he gossips about people, whatever, right? Why lo yehav? This seems like an understatement. So I for some reason I didn't remember this during the thing. The formal term back when they made us memorize rhetorical devices in AP English, which they thankfully got rid of, a litotes, okay, which is an ironic understatement intended to convey the opposite. Okay, so like for example, if you wanted to say, like if something was really, you say you saw a really great movie and your friend was like, "How's the movie?" It wasn't half bad. You're saying a ironic understatement to convey the opposite, right? So he doesn't love the one who rebukes him. Sounds like an ironic understatement. He hates the one who rebukes him. So the question is why stated that way? What is his emotional relationship with the one who those who rebuke him? Meaning, is it hate? Is it just like one step removed from love, but he likes them, or he's neutral? The pasuk doesn't say.
Sarcastic.
Yeah, is it sarcastic? Yeah, it is a type of sarcasm, really. 4, who is the person who rebukes him, and does it even matter in this context? Meaning, like, is it davka chachamim? Is it anyone? The first half sounds like it's anyone. Second half sounds like there's some special effect that happens with the chachamim. 5, does the second half imply only that he won't go to the chachamim, but the chachamim can come to him and be effective? If so, then there's tension with that in the first half. Or does it mean that like he'll run away from the chachamim even if they come to him? 6, what's the relationship? What is his relationship with the chachamim such that he won't go to them? To what extent is that relationship determined by his relationship with the rebuke? Are there circumstances in which he would go to chachamim? 7, what is the relationship between the two halves? Is the second half explaining the first half? Is it a separate point? Is it a consequence? 8, who's the intended audience? Is it the would-be rebuker? Is it the leitz? I mean, is it someone who's on the way to becoming a leitz? Okay, so our ideas we said yesterday are okay, did I do these out of the usual order?
It was just a lot of scattered ideas.
A lot of scattered ideas. Okay, yeah, right. So I think the most complete idea was this pairing of Moshe Rosenthal's first idea and then Ezra Federer's addition. So my notes say the first half is obvious, but the second half is identifying an unintended consequence. Since he hates rebuke so much, he won't even put himself into a situation where rebuke is possible, and consequently he will avoid going to chachamim in general and miss out on all the benefits that come from such associations. Okay, and the question was, why doesn't love instead of hate? So Ariel had answered, not loving implies he won't seek it out, and that pairs well with the second half, saying he won't go to the chachamim. Ezra Feder said, lo ye'ahav means he won't be comfortable with it, but he doesn't hate it. The havamina is that, okay, if he hated it, I get that that's bad, but if he just doesn't love it, okay, whatever. He doesn't love it. There's lots of things I don't like, but the unintended consequence is he's going to drift away from it and not go to chachamim. And then the meta point is, if you have a bad midah, which is not horrendous, we're pretty much, it's obvious if it's a horrendous midah, it's going to affect you. But many times you have like a non-ideal midah, and you dismiss it because it's not the worst, but it could have these unintended consequences in completely different areas, and that could cause a loss. So that would be true if we said that he's neutral about this attitude towards Rebuke. Okay, so then we had Moshe Levin's actual idea, and then my idea inspired by him. Okay, I'll see if we can remember this. Moshe Levin's idea was lo yahav means he's indifferent, and he tells himself that his indifference will still allow him to benefit from chachamim because he could just ignore the parts that he doesn't like. Kamash Malan, over time, the indifference will cause him to not go to chachamim at all. Question was how. So we went to Ezra's answer from before, which is that oh no, that's not Ezra's. Oh, okay. I think we started off that way. Oh no.
Different answer.
Different answer. Yeah, different answer. Oh, it's different. Thank you. Different answer. Right. Is that that the fact that he's uncomfortable means that he is going to deny it, and underlying resistance and denial will lead to the drift away from chachamim, and then the resistances will harden. Okay, and then my idea was hating a rebuke is a level. That means that you recognize its truth and you feel threatened by it, and you fight against it. So there's hope. If someone really hates your rebuke, then there is hope because it means that it is registering. Okay, but if you're totally indifferent, then that's like either a complete denial or a complete lack of understanding, and that's like in some ways, then that's like a worse situation to be in. So if you, what did I write? Scary takeaway. If you're learning Musar, Mishlei, and you feel indifferent towards the idea, chances are you're not looking at yourself honestly enough or deeply enough. Don't take the feeling of indifference as a sign that the idea doesn't apply to you. It might be exactly to the contrary. It applies to you so much that you're in denial, which is another, just to put this into a positive technique, is if you ever find that you're not related to an idea in Mishlei, I think the common thing is like dismiss and say, oh, this is not about me. The real benefit that you should get is find a way, even artificially, to make it apply to you, meaning find some area where, even if it's a remote possibility, you could see yourself in a situation where this applies to you, and then seize onto the feelings that you have when you have the resistance, and then work on it there, and then you'll root out this effect. Okay, yeah. Okay. Any other ideas? Yeah, Zach. Okay, good.
I'm still processing, but
yeah.
It's just it's interesting because it speaks to a situation I ran into recently, which is I was discussing some concept of God with someone else, and then there's a third person who kind of interjected with a scoffer-like personality to the idea of God himself.
Yeah.
And it kind of gave me pause of how exactly do I engage in this dynamic? Because anytime you deal with a scoffer, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Because it feels like they're not engaging authentically. And either you're not going to reach them at all, or you're going to do more damage than you're going to do good.
Right.
And the idea in general of giving feedback to someone is that, if they're going to push back even harder, so then the feedback isn't constructive. So, that's a healthy time to refrain.
Yeah.
And so I feel like the idea here is, I don't know if it would apply to all scoffers, but I can certainly see this applying to some, maybe all, I don't know. But he could be giving the chachamim, or the person who is giving the rebuke, an insight into the dynamics of giving tochachah to a scoffer-like personality, where you might be afraid to engage altogether.
Mm-hmm.
You might say, I'm just going to make things worse, so I'd rather not say anything.
Yeah.
And he's coming to say that a scoffer's tricky, that it may feel a little bit like that because they're saying, oh, yeah, that's dumb,
Yeah.
And it kind of feels like you're pushing them further away.
Yeah.
But I think what he's coming to say is that there's a part of them that you might reach despite that. And that's, I think, what the not loving is referring to, is that they're not in touch even with their appreciation for what you're saying, and they have a lot of barriers and defense mechanisms going on. And they might not, they're not going to love what you're going to say, but it's not like you're pushing them further necessarily. And so maybe it's just giving you the courage to say those thoughts, what you might have held back, because that some of it might reach them past their defense mechanisms outside of that moment. And they're not just having an adverse effect by sharing, reality with them.
Okay, so I actually I had a structural thought that I think serves as a foundation for that idea. So let me write it in terms of the structural first step, and then try to summarize your idea here, which is what I was wondering is, it says he won't go to the chachamim, and so you could say that the chiddush is you should go to him. Now, I didn't think about that yesterday because I was thinking, Leitz hates tochachah, but maybe the implication is you should go to him, and then that's when what Zach is saying applies. So let me just
go to who's the he and who's the him.
You, the rebuker, should go to the Leitz. Meaning he won't go to you, but you should go to him. Okay, so perhaps again, it's not exactly what you said for this first part, but perhaps the second half is telling you that because he won't go to the chachamim, okay, the chachamim should go to him. Okay, he hates rebuke. Okay, no, he doesn't love being rebuked. Okay, but perhaps there is a part of him that can be reached, and but he has a lot of but he has lots of internal barriers. Okay, the chiddush of the pasuk is that you should still try to reach him despite these barriers. Now, this is if you take the pasuk on its own. Okay, what was it?
It's a spectrum.
It's a spectrum.
Of where the leitzim is, like even in your diagram with the leitzim, there could be like a spectrum of how leitzim actually is.
Right, that is true. I mean, meaning like all the Mishlei archetypes, it's not something that you are total leitzim or you're not leitzim. You could have aspects of being a leitzim, but I just want to make the question more direct, which is a question from other pesukim. Okay. So let me just show you a pasuk that would be another pasuk.
Now I can see how it applies to Trump.
Now you can see how what applies to Trump.
Applies to Trump, yeah.
Yeah, right. Meaning that he's a late, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't.
It, but he'll maybe he'll take it.
Right. Meaning you shouldn't give up. Okay. So what about this? Hold on a second. Al tochachah. I think this is the thing. Al tochach let pen yisna'eka hocheach lachacham v'yehaveka. So do not rebuke a leitzim lest he hate you. Rebuke a chacham and he will love you. Right. So you do have other, and this is not the only one. You do have other pesukim in Mishlei that say don't rebuke a leitzim. I'll go to Zach first, and then
So actually, I like that. Because one of the thoughts I was having about this idea was like, even let's say it is the case like some of it will get through, right? Let's just imagine some of it will get through. But let's say just by you engaging in him, hearing him scoff at ideas that are real true ideas, let's say it'll hurt you, like in some way, like So in such a case, obviously you shouldn't engage with him, despite the fact that it might have a positive impact on him. So it's not a universal statement. And I like this other pasuk too, because it almost feels like two bookends to the situation of engaging with the leitzim. Like you need to know the limits of the idea, and like when you have both of these pesukim together, and probably other pesukim, you get more clarity on what your relationship and engagement style with the leitzim needs to be. So here, the focus of this pasuk is letting you know that there does exist a scenario where, despite the fact that all you're getting is mockery and scoffing. Like I feel like you see this the most with teenagers. They're like, they're like blowing you off, and like they seem like the ultimate life, but some part of your ideas are reaching them, and like later they think about it, and sometimes it's a year later. And then like this is what this pasuk is talking about. Like those situations. Okay, good. I like that idea. So just to rephrase it, or just to summarize it here, is that are there other pesukim that say you shouldn't rebuke a leitzim? Yes, but Mishlei pesukim are not absolute rules. Mishlei pesukim are tools in your toolkit for making decisions. So you've got that pasuk that says the leitzim will hate you, okay? And in some cases, that may be a reason that you shouldn't do it, either because it's damaging for you, or let's say the people around, if he's going to hate you and mock you, that might be bad for the ideas for other people who are not leitzim, or if it's at a critical developmental point where if he hates you now, he'll never associate with you again, and therefore you don't want to burn that bridge. But this pasuk is saying addressing a different havamina, which is there's no point in rebuking the leitzim, and the answer is no, there is a point, and it may still reach him. So now you have to factor both those in. Yeah, Ezra and then Moshe.
2 points. First of all, in terms of that question, I think I forgot who it was translated it Yesh himself or something like that.
Yes, right. Sadigon, right. That's a good point. Yeah, Sadi gonna translate it as Timsa Shalit Eino Ohav Shetochicha. There you'll find a case in which the scoffer does not love the one who rebukes him, right? So meaning it's not absolute.
Right.
Yeah.
But also maybe we could try to define a little bit better which situation is proper to rebuke him, even though he doesn't love it, and which situation doesn't.
I have an answer for that.
Just another question to clarify, the idea you're getting is from Lo Yahav. That's how you know that you should rebuke him. Like, where in the pasuk do you see that you should?
Well, yeah,
that's where you're getting it from, right? Is that he doesn't love, which implies that it's not a total rejection, right? I mean that there still is openness, just not love, right? Yeah, Moshe.
Yeah. Can I see the pasuk 9 again?
Pasuk what?
9:8.
Yeah.
I'll
tochachah leitzim.
Yeah. Does 10 imply that there's a chance that he's?
I don't know. I never know about that. I mean, I think you could read it that way, you know. But I don't know if pen is dafka probability or like it will happen. It sounds like probability, right?
Yeah, like it's likely that he'll hit you.
Right. Right. Yeah. I wish I could remember other pesukim. Hold on a second. Let me just look at our Leitz pesukim. Oh man, I said I wasn't going to do this. No, I'm not going to learn through all of them. But I just want to see really quickly just to get more data here. Isaac, I've seen your hand, by the way. I just want to fully exhaust this idea first. Oh yeah, so Yoser Leitz Lokech Lokal, and one who gives Moser to a Leitz acquires disgrace for himself. Okay, that's one. Okay, then we got 9:8. Leitz Lo Shama Ga'ara. Leitz has not listened to rebuke. Leitz Take no Nachu Leitzim Shvatim Leitz Hayayin Banash Leitz Yacham Pesi is Yayin Leitzmo Garch Leitz Leitzimado Simos Velas. Okay, fine. Yeah, so we got a couple of them. Yeah, Ariel?
I just want to answer Ezra's question. I was thinking about a case where a Leitz wouldn't love the rebuke, but he'd be either forced or willing to take it. And still may hurt. Like, look, in a situation where most people don't like being rebuked.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Right.
I
actually wanted to add. I meant to add that to the question here. As another question is like very few people love rebuke. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very special mitzvah to go out and see.
Right, like asking your supervisor for
yeah. No, but you can say, look, but the reality is you'll be in situations where you're forced either for the greater good of the company to concede your ego and to better the company, or like you have to ask people who know more than you to make you more money. Like that's you're forced in a situation and like you don't like it, but you have to do it. So it's like that helps.
I want to say also that Ezra's question is a good question, but I don't know if it needs to be answered. Okay, Ezra's question was, can we define a little bit more what the scenario is in which the Leitz would or wouldn't love rebuke? So it's a useful question to think about. But at the end of the day, I do think that you are going to have to weigh many factors to make the decision. I mean, you could get greater clarity in the criteria, but it's not like we're going to, I know you're not asking this, I just want to clarify methodologically. It's not like we're going to be able to come up with in situation A, rebuke, in situation B, don't rebuke, because there will be other factors. Yeah.
Right. I guess just the reason why I want more insight into that is because there are so many pesukim telling you not to rebuke the Leitz.
Yeah.
And all we have here is that he doesn't love it. So to take from that, you should rebuke it sometimes. I feel like we would need a precise type of case, at least, where you can.
Right.
Just I guess add on, the question is, if nobody likes rebuke, so then why are we specifically talking about a Leitz? You know what I'm saying?
Right. That's why. Right. That's why I think that this does have to do specifically with leitzim, which is a good clue. Yeah. All right, Isaac, what's your idea, and then maybe that'll help us answer this.
Yeah. So I mainly have the first class, which is, I think it's not that. I say there's two ways of reading it. One is kind of how the been, which is he doesn't love it, but he's okay with it. I think it's actually the opposite, that it's stating it in like he says, it's a light of he's that really he despises it. He despises it, and it's saying it as he doesn't love it because you're like to get you to think, oh, he just doesn't love it, but if his whole way of operating is mocking things to make himself feel better, then when he encounters, if someone rebukes him, then he like despises that with his like every fiber of his being.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like if you just said so many, like okay, like you might say, oh, he like really doesn't like it.
Right. Okay.
So that actually does work like that might help me answer a little bit as
okay, sure. Yeah.
Is I think that, and I think I'm inclined to agree with Isaac that like if someone has a defense mechanism, you say like, oh, don't use that defense mechanism. That's not likely to be like a soft response. That's gonna like be visceral probably. And so I think that this pasuk is not talking about rebuking their approach to learning, but rather rebuking in terms of a topic in which you're discussing. Meaning they're scoffing a certain idea. So you're not targeting them, but you're just talking the idea. Like, no, this isn't the idea, that's the idea. Here's what the reality is. Okay. So it's not like to them, but it's to the idea.
Okay, so I'm gonna I'm gonna bring a support for that from the pasuk, but then also I want to do the Malbim, because the Malbim, even though which is the Malbim saying from the pasuk, I think lo yahav leitz hocheach lo. He does not love the one who rebukes him. Okay, so in other words, I think even if you translate it this way, that it's not talking about that hocheach is not the person. The keyword is lo, meaning because his resistance is ego-based, as opposed to, let's say, for example, the Kseel's resistance is taiva-based. The Kseel doesn't like rebuke because it will force him to change his desires. But the Leitz doesn't have the attachment to the behavior necessarily. It's just he can't stand the ego. So if you wanted to point out to him, let's say, tochachah in abstract or tochachah to someone else, then he might be open to it, as long as he doesn't sense that this is attacking his ego. Now, let's go to the Malbim, and it's not in the packets. I want to read the Malbim, but I want to preface it by saying that you should listen to the Malbim on two levels. One is what he's saying. The other is how can we selfishly use his reading for our interpretations, okay? And, again, this is the Malbim, so he is going to say that there's no such thing as synonyms in Hebrew. And he's going to get interesting results.
Also,
okay.
At some point I want to answer Ariel's question.
Okay, sure. Okay, so he says like this: Lo yahav leitz hocheach lo. Haleitz hu hamislotzitz al chuke hachachma v'hamusar. So the leitz is someone who mocks principles of chachma and musar. Ya'an she'en yecholim lo vararam lo barayos haseichel, because it is not possible to clarify them, meaning to prove them with intellectual proofs. Okay, so there's a category of that. Okay, we'll see the full picture. Al tochachah. Okay, so that was musar, but tochachah, shehu vikuah haseichel, which is a rational argument, barayos with proofs, lo yuchol lehislotis, he cannot mock those. Okay, rak shesone hatochacha the nishma mimena, so he'll hate tochachah and guard from it. Okay, so he's differentiating between musar and tochachah, and between hatred and mocking. Okay, Valzeh Amar Yusar Leitz Lokeach Lo Kalon. Is it Yusar? That sounds weird, right? Maybe that is. Yeah, didn't we just that was in the Leitz pesukim. Yoser. Okay, Yoser. Also weird, but whatever. Yoser Leitz. Yoser Leitz Lokeach Lo Kalon. One who gives musar to a Leitz gets a blemish. Umochiach l'Rasha mumo. And one who rebukes a Rasha, who reproof. Who reproves Rasha, right? That would be the English word for the way he's learning rebuke, because reprove is from the word proof, which is tochachah. Okay, like hochacha, right? Mochiach, muchach. But if so he's quoting that pasuk to show you that if you give musar to a leitz, that'll be bad for you, and if you give reproof to a Rasha, that's your blemish. And the implication is you can give tochachah to a leitz. Barayos, if you reprove a leitz with proofs, lo yikalehu, he will not disparage you, because he is subordinate, or he does submit himself to rational argumentation. But he hates the one who gives the reproof. Okay, so that was my reading initially. Lo yahav hocheach lo. The guy who gives him the reproof, he does not like that guy, but he cannot mock the reproof itself. Okay, but he goes on to make more diukim. But he will avoid going to chachamim. Who eno nishmar mipnei hamusar she'al zeh yislotis. He doesn't guard against going to chachamim because of the musar, because that he could just mock. and he might even enjoy that. But he doesn't go to chachamim because they can reprove him. Because he doesn't love tochachah. Okay, therefore he won't go to chachamim. Here's a new point. We're going to read this inside. פירוש Toras כהנים kadoshim. I think that's what it is. Siman mem gimel. So on the pasuk of tochachah es amisacha. So you notice there it uses the word es amisacha. Okay, but here it uses the word lo, hocheach lo with a lamed. So he says there. I explained. Sheish hevdel ben yakach. I don't know. That's a weird translation. Yikach. That sounds weird though, right? She'acharav lamed uvein yikach she'acharav es. So there's a difference between
the shorish.
No, the shorish is the same. Oh yeah. Is he just saying the shorish? All right, fine. We can say Yud Chav Ches she'acharav lamed and Yud Chav Ches she'acharav es. So being mochiach es or mochiach lo. Okay, what's the difference? Yikach she'acharav lamed. If there's a lamed afterwards, misvakeach imo al pi hasechel beinyane hachachma umusar ve'ino mochiach al davar prati. So if it's with a lamed, then that is reproof through rationality in matters of chachma and musar, but not on something that is particular. The yurches chavches she'acharav es, but if there's the word es after it, mochicho al davar prati, then you're reproving him on something particular. Valzeh amar al tochach leitz pen yisna'eka. Regarding that, it says, do not reprove a leitz lest he hate you. Ukshe'ino mochiach al davar prati. Ukshe'ino mochiach al davar prati eno soneh. Okay, but if you don't rebuke him if you don't reprove him on something particular, eno soneh. Okay, so he's making another answer. He's saying that al tochach leitz pen yisna'eka, that is on a davar prati because it's a direct object. So reproving him for not studying or whatever, right? That's davar prati, that he will hate you. And that does make sense because then he's going to perceive it as an attack on him. But mochiach leitz, right? Presenting it in abstract, then he won't love it because he still does not, he still does not want to change or whatever, but he can't mock it and he won't hate it. And he won't hate you. He just won't love you, So so again, this is a good example of how Malbim, through the nuances in the language, he's really answering our questions, carving out like the subtleties, and he's resolving the contradictions between the pesukim. Now, just to complete this, let's look at his commentary on tochachah as a misacha, where he first presents the idea. Why am I going there? Okay, so this is on Vayikra 19. I want to say 1927, but I might just like the year. I don't know. Oh, it's 1917. Okay. Oh, that's the best movie. No, 19. Wait. Yeah, that's not the best movie. That's the best war movie. I think now I like it better than Saving Private Ryan.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. But yeah. You watch it and tell me. Have you seen it? Oh, great movie. Yeah, the movie it's World War I movie, and the cool thing about it, this is not what makes it good, is it's filmed as though it's in one shot.
Right. Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah, it's an amazing movie. Okay, anyway. So here he says it's slightly different, right? There's tochachah le and tochachah im. O milas s, okay, or s. Yakach she'achrav shimush halamed o milas im hu me'inyan vikuach. So if it's with, or if it is lamed, that is vikuach. That's argument. That's argumentation demonstration. Shemarlo al pi chukei hasechal o hamusar haderech shebo yelach v'hamaseh sheyaseh. That's when you prove to someone based on rationality, or musar, the path that you should follow and the action that you should do. Uva b'milas im shnehem mizvachim umachlifim divrehem zeh im zeh. And if both people are engaged in it, then you use im. Kamo sham yashar nochach imo. Sham yashar nochach imo v'afalata lanetzach mishofti. Okay, I actually don't know this parak in Eov, so I don't know what that's talking about there. I was thinking luchu nav nivacha when God says, "Come, let us not argue, but let us like engage in tochachah or in vikuach, like in terms of like a rational like argumentation. Let's like duke it out. What was that? Discourse. Yeah, that's a good word. V'im Yisrael yispakeach. Okay. Uba hanif benifal o behispa'el. Okay, it comes in nifal or hispa'el. Ukshba b'shimut lamed rak echad hu hamadaber umavar lechavera inyan musari. But if it's with the lamed, then one person is clarifying to his fellow something that is disciplinary in nature. But he's not disciplining him about a particular chait. Kamo v'hochiach la'amim rabim. V'hochiach b'mishor le'invei aretz. V'hochiach lenavon yavin das. Amnam po yikach she'akarav milas s. But if it has an s after it, he karov im inyan musar. So that is close to being a synonym with musar. Ushimochicho al chait prati she'asa. You're giving him tochachah on a particular chait that he did. V'chiach Abraham es Avimelech al odos be'er hamayim. Ochichacha ve'erecha le'einecha. Es asher yehav Hashem yochiach. V'yesh havdil bein musar letochacha. So there's a difference between musar and tochachah. Hamiyaser kofehu im bashotim im bedvarim. Okay, so musar implies you are compelling him either with corporal punishment or with words. Uva min hagadol el katan, and it comes from someone superior to someone who's inferior. V'nikshar larov im haasid, and usually it applies to the future. Shem yasrehu bal yaaseh kain beasid. You're rebuking him so he doesn't do something in the future. V'mochiach hu barayos, but mochiach is through proofs. Uba larov al haavar, and most of the time tochachah is about the past. Right? It doesn't have to give some tochachah about not doing something. Right? V'dibarti al zeh b'makom acher. I don't know where that is. Muvor tamid shekefel hamakor al hapol mora al hishanus hapulav hasmadasa. So it's known that when you impede with the infinitive on a verb, it implies repetition of the action and continually doing it. V'zesh amar uminayin she'im hochachto dalat v'chamisha pa'amim v'chule tamlomer hocheach tocheo. So that's the havmin and chazal. Is how do you know that you have to rebuke someone multiple times? Because the pasuk says, "You shall rebuke, you shall rebuke." Right, meaning many times. Okay, he's still explaining the whole puzzle. Okay, I feel like this would be interesting to do, but let's hold off on that. Right. Okay, so how does this help? So let's actually first just say how this helps what Zach was saying. Okay. What?
There's still a lot of
yeah, there's a lot of information. Yeah. Or so should we do what he was saying first?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do what he was saying first. Okay. Okay, sure. So what Malbim is saying is, let me just actually write this out here. Okay, so the Malbim, I opened a new document.
I should do that.
I must have done Control N. Yeah. Okay, Malbim is saying that, okay, so musar equals by force of punishment or by force of words. That's one distinction he made. Whereas tochachah is by force of rationality, okay, and proofs. Okay, then he says tochachah li or what can't I do? What's going on here? Hold on. Well, I can't do the I'm just, sometimes you just forget which Hebrew.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do the little dash. Why can't I do it?
What? It's not...
Do the on-screen keyboard.
No. Okay.
Ego.
Lamed or Im. No, I just don't know how to do the on-screen keyboard. Ignorance, not ego.
Gotta clarify that.
Yeah. So lit or Im is in abstract. Okay, whereas tochachah s, i.e. a direct object, is about a particular action. Okay. Oh, sorry. Also, musar is usually about the future, and this is usually about the past. Okay. And then so his pshat is that if you a leitzim will mock musar, okay, because it's not given with seichel, based on seichel, okay, based on seichel.
Did he also had was the difference of im and le about if you're having a discussion of groups together?
Yeah, correct. Right. So the im is both parties are investigating and analyzing, whereas le is one party demonstrating to the other. Yeah. Okay. So Leitz will mock Musar because it's not given based on seichel. Which, by the way, just to clarify, you can give the same piece of you can make the same point via Musar or via tochachah, right? Meaning, I don't think he's making this distinction based on the content. Okay, he's making it based on like whether you support it with words or just with force. So he will mock Musar because it's not given based on seichel, but he won't mock tochachah because he can't deny because he accepts the reason and evidence.
It's really the finding ways.
It's a very very nuanced reading of Leitz. It makes me want to go through all the pesukim on Leitz with the Malbim, which he basically did for us, Okay, so then there's that. However, he won't like the person who delivers this, so he'll avoid chachamim who are capable of and prone to giving abstract tochachah. Okay, so in other words, in other words,
he wants to like them, but he doesn't want.
he still is resistant to change. Okay, at least as much as everyone is, but he will submit to proofs, and therefore the chief way of resisting is to avoid exposure. Yeah.
To clarify, is he saying that the Leitz it's impossible for anyone to deny a point if it's just clearly proven, or like the Leitz won't do that?
It sounds like he's saying the Leitz won't do that because I feel like people can deny a lot of stuff.
I know, but it sounds like he's saying. I don't know.
He is saying he won't mock it though. He is saying he won't mock it.
Right.
Yeah. It's a good question. Why? Yeah. And again, I feel like to answer that kind of question, we'd have to see what he says on the other pesukim about Leitz. Yeah, Moshe.
So if he's only attacking the person, wouldn't this imply that like a good character person or whatever, someone that he likes, could give him tochachah effectively?
So this is what I was wondering about on my own, not from this, which is that lo yehav Leitz chocheach lo. Does that? So I was thinking the test case is what if it is someone who loves him or who he loves, right? And then they rebuke him. Does that mean that the love will cease, or does that mean he'll react differently?
Based on this, right, it sounds like he'll react differently.
Yeah,
because he only falls into the ad hominem when it's, I don't know if it's a superior or an authority figure or just someone he doesn't like.
Yeah, he loves, right? Will he now dislike that person, or will he not behave like a Leitz? Yeah, and I could see both ways though. I can see both ways. I'm not sure. Yeah, Zach?
So this sparked an interesting train of thought in me. Like, I really love his breakdown of this.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it makes the thinking about a Leitz feel much more tangible in like my own life.
Yeah.
And part of my thinking was like, this seems pretty normal.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like a pretty average person could fit into these categories. Like if someone's like, gives you logical proofs, you'd like to try to understand them. And if they just come at you and like badger you, maybe you'll be resistant. And it almost seems like a reasonable kind of personality. And it got me thinking, like, obviously, despite all that, we're saying that this is a negative way to be.
Yeah.
It's not now positive character. So it made me think, okay, well, what's the positive version of this? If this is the negative one, what's the positive one? And it reminded me of, I forget where I saw, it might have been like in a reel or something, but like I saw somewhere, or TED Talk or something, that talked about the difference between like
reel to TED Talk is like Bryce to Mishnah, but yeah. Yeah.
It depends on your algorithm.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
So I remember seeing some kind of content where it's talking about the difference between like healthy relationships and toxic relationships.
Yeah.
And how much in a healthy relationship you focus on content, and versus in toxic relationships you focus on like how it's presented.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone tells you something, you'll be like, oh, why did you say, like passing this up, be like, what why did you say that way? You get very caught up in like how things are presented.
Yeah.
And I think like the ideal, like what this implies about the ideal way to be, because this seems reasonable, so to speak, is that the goal is that we can rise above the presentation methods of the person who's sharing an insight.
Yeah.
Because most people are not skilled.
Yeah.
Most people are not able to give feedback in the best way. And like we have so to speak, in a normal terms, not outside of ideals, like we have the right to feel bothered by it. Like, why did they say it that way? Why it could have been nicer, they could have done it in a healthier manner. And so I think the ideal is we can bring out from this is that really our job to really avoid even any elements of lateness within us. That when someone tells us something, not to get caught up in how they're presenting it, but to do our own internal check and be like, okay, well, regardless of like they're their own person, they might have messed up that delivery, but like I care about myself and I want to like take that and think about it and respond according to like what's true for me.
That's a good takeaway. I don't know if I agree with your statement. This sounds pretty normal because, and maybe this addresses what Ezra's saying, is it could be that the Malbim is assuming a higher level of perfection in the Leitz of being able or willing to submit himself to rational demonstrations. Because I think most people, when you rationally prove something, I think they do dismiss it because I think they do treat it as just the same as Musar, as authority, you know? Whereas, exactly. You know, like, I mean, when it comes to health, people do this all the time, you know, like, I mean, maybe because they do relate to the things not as like actual knowledge, but like as
I sort of feel like though he's categorizing flaws, meaning just because a person has one flaw doesn't mean they have all the other flaws. And most
correct.
real people have a mix of
right. So what I was going to say from my takeaway from this is, you know, up until today, I think we have lumped all tochachah into one category, and it is interesting that you can have a personality that, if they perceive it as personal or as authority asserting itself, then they're totally turned off. But they're totally willing to go along with it if you demonstrate it in abstract and not touching their ego. You know, a good example of this, by the way, and I'm not saying that he is a Leitz, but someone who makes this distinction is Elon Musk. Okay, so Elon Musk, when you demonstrate something to him rationally, he immediately, like in terms of like in his companies, immediately like goes with it with whatever's practical. But he has a big ego, and if there's anything that is perceived as a personal attack, he lashes out. You know, so it's just it's interesting sort of like dichotomy there. Ariel?
I don't know if this is what the model is saying, but I had like a different idea. Maybe it's possible that like if this Leitz is constantly hearing average people, not necessarily the common, give rebuke, like he'll associate this rebuke even to like this chacham and him not being able to express it rationally or whatever. So he may not go to the
right. Meaning when you say meaning if it's Musar, right. If it's Musar, it could turn him off to the chachamim. That's actually another good takeaway, which is that, and I face this all the time in high school, which is that unfortunately, a lot of high school teachers only give Musar and they never give tochachah the way he's defined. They never attempt to actually make rational arguments for why you shouldn't do stuff. So the default assumption among the high school students is, oh, this rabbi is giving me Musar, and they just shut themselves off to it. So what this would be, the practical takeaway for me is make it clear to the student that what I'm doing is something different that they may not have been exposed to before. And that, and I think doing it in abstract, I think is a good strategy for doing it, of like, this is why I like teaching Mishlei to high schoolers, is like, you get to see rational reasons why you shouldn't make the decisions that the Torah says you shouldn't make, and vice versa, but not about them. It's about people in the world making decisions in every day. And then that convinces them that, oh yeah, this actually makes sense. And then they can apply it to themselves without threat. Yeah, Ezra?
What do you think is the process of the Leitz? Once he understands the idea in abstract, it's not relating to him, but it hasn't touched his ego, so he didn't reject it. What do you think the process is for him to then try to apply it to himself, given that his ego doesn't want that?
Good question. So I think the thing is that, and I feel like there's a Rabbeinu Yonah who says this explicitly, is that if it comes from him, then it doesn't hit the ego. So it's a 1-2 punch. Is you demonstrate it rationally, then he could take it with his mind and apply it to himself. If you take it if you demonstrate it rationally and then you apply it to him, then it awakens the ego defenses. Or if it's not based on the mind, then certainly it awakens the ego defenses. But I think demonstrating to him, and then he understands it, and then he applies it to himself. So he's not submitting to you; he's submitting to his own mind. Yeah. Last point, I have to run because I have a special schedule today. I have to make it back to my apartment soon.
I was going to say another way that a Leitz might process it is because when he hears it, he thinks about other people and like kind of mentally mock them. And then now it's a thing. Now it's a quality that he's mocked, and he obviously doesn't want to, be doing the thing that he mocked.
That's funny. That's a good lolishma for Leitz, right? Is that you get the idea clear, and then you look down on other people for making that mistake, and you could like side with your personality, and then prevent yourself from being into the category that you would mock. Yeah, the only problem with that is Rabbeinu Yonah does mention that the Leitz is blind to his own defects. So I don't know how that quality interacts with this. In theory, it could work, but I don't know how it plays out in practice. Okay, I gotta stop now. This does make me at some point in the future want to go through the Malbim on Leitz. Maybe that's the next round of going through all the Leitz pesukim is the Malbim on Leitz and get a new picture of that. Yeah, a really good Malbim though. I really like that.
Really
yeah. Okay, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You low bar.